The vaulted chamber of the Galactic Council was alive with whispers. Light from the twin suns of Orion Prime spilled through crystalline arches, illuminating rows of alien delegates seated in semicircular tiers. They had gathered countless times before to debate trade disputes or border skirmishes, but never with such palpable dread. Every eye, compound, multifaceted, or burning with strange luminescence, turned toward the central dais where the High Chancellor prepared to speak. Drevelk's scaled hands gripped the lectern as though it were an anchor. Age had dulled the brightness of his reptilian hide, yet his voice still carried the authority that had cowed generations of rivals. "Counselors," he began, his throat clicking with unease, "our probes have returned from the quarantine zone. Their data cannot be dismissed." A hush swept the chamber. For millennia, that region of space had been cordoned off, its boundaries patrolled by automated drones that obeyed ancient protocols even the Council scarcely remembered. It was said to be lifeless, irradiated, cursed by wars no records fully described. To speak of it was to summon unease, as though the silence of that dead expanse had a will of its own. Archivist Thalen rose from his bench, the heavy folds of his scholar's robes dragging across the polished floor. His elongated face betrayed little emotion, but his voice carried the weight of centuries of accumulated knowledge. "The instruments show what many here will not want to believe. The stars once thought extinguished burn again. Planets that registered barren now teem with cities. And the transmissions," he paused, his dark eyes surveying the assembly. "They are human." The name spread like poison. General Ryvak's mandibles snapped shut as his armored bulk shifted in his seat. The warrior's body was a testament to a lifetime of conflict, yet even he could not hide the tremor that rippled through his chitinous limbs. "Impossible," he barked, though the sharp edge of his voice betrayed uncertainty. "The humans were eradicated. That was the foundation of our order. They cannot return." Envoy Serac leaned forward, his slick, amphibian features twitching in curiosity rather than fear. "And yet," he mused, his voice oily and smooth, "if these creatures have endured within the zone, imagine the trade potential. Survivors of such conditions must possess technologies unseen in our markets. Perhaps, instead of fearing phantoms, we should prepare our ledgers." The chamber erupted in layered voices, some vibrating, others clicking, a chorus of disbelief, fury, and speculation. Drevok slammed a claw against the lectern, silencing the uproar. "Do not let greed blind you. We must speak plainly. If humanity has endured, then the architects of the quarantine failed. We are the inheritors of their failure." Thalen's gaze grew distant, as if he peered through the centuries. "Legends say they were not merely warriors. They were creators, dreamers, destroyers all in one. No species adapted as swiftly, nor fought with such ferocity. Their exile was not a punishment, it was a safeguard." General Ryvak stood, towering above lesser delegates, his armored plates scraping against each other like grinding stone. "Then the safeguard has failed. And I say this. We must strike before their roots spread beyond that cursed zone. If their cities glow with life once more, then their fleets cannot be far behind. Crush them now, before they remember what they once were." A murmur of agreement rippled across several factions, though others shifted uncomfortably. Serac gave a sharp laugh, more hiss than mirth. "You speak of war as though our coffers are endless. Do you think our people will bleed gladly to silence ghosts? What if their return could enrich us instead?" Drevok's tail lashed in anger. "Your avarice will doom us all. You think in coin while others prepare for annihilation." For a long moment, the council teetered between panic and disbelief. Then Thalen stepped forward, a rare breach of decorum, his robes whispering against the marble floor. His voice, low but unwavering, carried to every corner of the hall. "I have spent my life preserving what fragments remain of our forebears' records. In them lies a warning. The humans were not destroyed. They were sealed away because destruction was impossible. They survived where none could. Their very existence is defiance. And now, their silence has ended." The chamber stilled. Even Serac, usually quick with retorts, closed his mouth. Drevok's claws tapped against the lectern in restless rhythm, the only sound in the vast chamber. Ryvak's fists tightened, the warrior in him thrilled and horrified in equal measure at the thought of such an adversary returning. At last, Drevok spoke, his voice quieter, yet every delegate leaned in to hear. If the quarantine has broken, then the council faces a trial unlike any in its history. We must decide not whether humans exist, but how we will endure their return. Thalen lowered his eyes, the weight of ancient prophecy heavy upon him. Do not deceive yourselves with thoughts of profit or swift conquest. We are not dealing with the forgotten species. We are facing the inevitable resurgence of the one race the galaxy itself once conspired to hide. The word struck like a verdict. In the silence that followed, every delegate felt the shift of history pressing down upon them. The old fears, once myth, were now breathing again. As the council adjourned in uneasy disarray, Drevok lingered on the dais, staring at the shifting holographic display of the quarantine zone. Pinpricks of light marked human cities blooming like fire across the void. He whispered a phrase not spoken in the chamber for 5 millennia, a name both curse and omen. Humans. And the sound of it echoed in the vaulted chamber, a reminder that the galaxy's long peace had fractured, and that something relentless and dangerous had begun to stir beyond the veil. Stars shimmered across the void, their cold brilliance reflected in the viewing glass of the horizon's edge. Captain Marcus Hale stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his silhouette sharp against the glow of distant constellations. Centuries of isolation weighed on his people, but in his eyes burned the steady fire of defiance. Humanity had survived its exile, rebuilt its worlds from ash and scarcity, and now its ships cut through the dark like blades unsheathed. Behind him, Commander Jonas Kale stepped forward, the younger officer's gait brisk with restrained energy. The probes confirm it, sir. Alien fleets massing at the boundary. They know we're here. His voice carried both apprehension and excitement, the vigor of a generation raised on the promise that humanity's silence would one day end. Hale's jaw tightened. Of course they know. They've been waiting for centuries, praying our prison would hold. But they never considered what happens when a prisoner forges his own key. In the command pit below, screens glowed with streams of alien transmissions, intercepted fragments of debate and fear. Admiral Elias Voren, the architect of humanity's return armada, appeared on the primary display. His presence filled the bridge despite the distance, broad-shouldered, silver-haired, eyes hard as steel tempered by endless calculation. Captain Hale, he said, voice steady as the vacuum itself. Prepare your fleet. We advance beyond the quarantine perimeter at dawn cycle. Hale inclined his head, though the order was no surprise. Voren had never been one for hesitation. His strategies had unified fractured colonies, turned desperate militias into disciplined fleets, and taught humanity to wield hardship as its greatest weapon. Where others saw extinction, he had seen rebirth. On the secondary channel, Dr. Eric Valen's voice crackled in. A scholar by training, Valen wore no uniform, but his influence was undeniable. Our records confirm it, Captain. The Council broadcasts match fragments from pre-exile data caches. They are the same civilizations that sealed us away. They feared what we were, and now they fear what we have become. His tone was calm, but beneath it lay fervor, almost hunger. Knowledge to him was not neutral, it was ammunition. Jonas Kale shifted uneasily. If they feared us once, won't they strike before we can negotiate? We're outnumbered 100 to 1. Hale studied the young officer, seeing both courage and the shadow of doubt. Numbers are comfort for those who cannot adapt. We've survived worse odds. You've read the histories, when the colonies starved, when wars gutted our cradle worlds, when plague threatened to end us. We endured. That is our weapon. Not size. Not firepower. Will. The ship's engines thrummed, a living heartbeat that carried Hale's words into the silence that followed. Humanity had not simply endured, it had been forged. Every hardship, every wound, had tempered them into something unyielding. And now, for the first time in 5 millennia, they were no longer bound by invisible chains. The first transmission to the galaxy was prepared, its words debated and distilled until only truth remained. Hale read them aloud before they were dispatched. This is humanity. We are no myth. We are no relic. We are returning. When the message surged across the stars, intercepted by listening stations and trembling council fleets, panic erupted in foreign chambers. But on the bridge of the horizon's edge, a hush followed, as though the very ship absorbed the gravity of what had been spoken. Hours later, the response came, not words, but action. Alien fleets assembled at the threshold of council-controlled space, their formation a wall of defiance. Admiral Voron's orders were clear. They would test humanity's resolve. Hale's fleet surged forward, a vanguard of steel and will. The first encounter was swift. Alien cruisers, bristling with weapons and confidence, locked onto the lead human ship. Hale's eyes narrowed as he gave the order. Target their command vessel. Disable, don't destroy. The strike was precise, surgical. Human weapons, honed in centuries of self-reliance, cut through shields thought impenetrable. Within minutes, the blockade collapsed, not annihilated, but humbled. Not a single life was taken, though every ship was rendered powerless. The silence that followed was more damning than wreckage. On the council world of Orion Prime, Dravoke and his fellow delegates received the report with disbelief. A single human vessel had undone an entire blockade. Panic clawed at the edges of their authority. Yet aboard the horizon's edge, the victory was measured not in destruction, but in the certainty it inspired. Humanity did not need to prove its ruthlessness. Its restraint was proof of power far greater. Jonas Kale exhaled slowly, eyes wide as the alien formation drifted helpless. We actually did it. Hale turned from the viewing glass, his expression unreadable, though the faintest flicker of satisfaction touched his eyes. No, Commander. We showed them. The difference between fear and inevitability. Now they know the prison is broken. When the fleet regrouped, Admiral Voron's voice returned, grim and resolute. This was only the beginning. They will not surrender their fear so easily. Prepare for escalation. The Council will choose war. Dr. Valen added, his voice sharp with conviction, and we must choose truth. They caged us because destruction failed. Let every star know it. Let every species hear it. Humanity does not vanish. Humanity returns. The bridge fell into silence once more, each man burdened by the enormity of the path ahead. Beyond the hull stretched a galaxy unprepared for their resurgence, a galaxy already trembling. But Marcus Hale felt no hesitation. The conflict was not yet fully drawn, but the line had been crossed. And in that quiet moment, with alien fleets retreating and human banners pushing outward, the central truth stood undeniable. Humanity had taken its first step back into the galaxy, and the Council's fear was no longer a whisper of ancient legends. It was alive, immediate, and growing with every beat of the human heart. The council chamber was cloaked in gloom, its vaulted ceiling casting long shadows across the tiered seats. High Chancellor Dravoke sat rigid, scales dulled to a muted gray as reports streamed from across the border. Alien fleets, once thought unassailable, lay in ruins, crippled by human ingenuity. Delegates muttered in disbelief, their voices a fractured chorus of denial and dread. General Ryvac rose, his carapace gleaming beneath the cold light. His voice carried the certainty of one who had devoted his life to battle. Our fleets are being dismantled in hours. Their tactics are unlike anything we've trained against. They anticipate, adapt, and strike without hesitation. If we hesitate longer, we forfeit the galaxy itself. Archivist Thalen stood slowly, his robes whispering against the floor. His face was lined with the burden of knowledge, yet his gaze was steady. You speak of fleets as though numbers and weapons could stem what approaches. You misunderstand the nature of this enemy. Humans do not endure by force of arms alone. They endure because they cannot be broken. The delegates turned on him, voices sharp, demanding clarity. Thalen raised a hand for silence. For centuries, I studied the fragments left by our ancestors. They sealed humanity away not because they despised war, but because they feared something deeper, an adaptability beyond any other species. To them, loss is not defeat. It is instruction. Every failure reshapes them. Every wound teaches them to strike anew. That is what makes them inevitable. Drevok hissed, frustration rippling through his voice. Then what do you suggest? Surrender? Shall we kneel before primitives who clawed their way through exile? Thalen's reply was calm, though edged with warning. I suggest recognition. War will not prevent their rise. It will hasten it. The more we fight them, the more we refine their strength. But Ryvak slammed a clawed fist against the table, his patience gone. Recognition is submission. Better to shatter their colonies before they spread. Deploy our superweapons, strike at their heart, and scatter the embers before the fire consumes us. His fervor ignited murmurs of agreement among the war-minded species, their fear twisting swiftly into rage. While the council fractured, humanity advanced. On the bridge of the horizon's edge, Captain Marcus Hale leaned over a tactical display, watching alien movements ripple across the stars. Dr. Eric Valen stood beside him, pale eyes burning with discovery. It's true, Valen whispered, pointing to decrypted archives recovered from captured council data. They didn't forget us. They chose to erase us. The quarantine was their prison, not our shield. They feared what we could become. Jonas Kale stiffened at the words. So all those centuries, we weren't survivors of chance. We were captives. His voice cracked with disbelief, quickly hardened into anger. They tried to bury us. Hale's jaw set like stone. And they failed. He turned to his crew, his tone sharp as a blade. Spread the word. Every man in this fleet should know the truth. We were not forgotten. We were contained. Now we'll show them the cost of their fear. Admiral Voron's face appeared across the command screens, weathered and resolute. The Council has assembled a coalition fleet, 50 vessels strong, supported by their finest commanders. They intend to halt our advance before it takes root. This is the test we expected. Pass it, and the galaxy will never again doubt us. Hale saluted, every line of his frame taut with determination. We'll pass it, sir. We've been preparing for this fight since the day the stars were denied to us. When the fleets clashed, the void became a crucible. Alien armadas advanced in rigid formation, their doctrines carved by millennia of predictable war. Humanity responded with chaos honed into art. Hale's ships darted like predators, slipping between heavy barges, striking at blind angles. Drones armed with decoys fractured enemy targeting. AI-guided barges crippled command ships with surgical precision. Commander Kale led a detachment through an asteroid belt, using the shifting rock fields as cover. Alien captains, unused to irregular maneuvers, faltered, their ships colliding, their formations splintering. Every council tactic met with an answer, every strategy unraveling in minutes. On the council world, reports poured in, each more damning than the last. General Ryvak gripped the edge of his seat, mandibles clenched as the impossible unfolded. They are not fighting us, he growled. They are dismantling us. Drevok buried his face in his hands, his voice ragged. We cannot match this. They think as no one else thinks. Thalen spoke softly, his words falling like hammer blows. They think as humans. And that is enough. The battle ended not with annihilation, but with humiliation. Half the coalition fleet was disabled, the rest fled in chaos. Humanity claimed the field with minimal losses, a feat no other species could comprehend. Back aboard the horizon's edge, Hale stood over the quiet hum of victorious machinery. His men cheered, but he raised a hand to still them. This is not victory. This is the opening act. They will come harder, faster, more desperate. But every strike they make only teaches us how to endure them better. And when their strength falters, ours will remain. Dr. Valen nodded, his eyes gleaming with conviction. The council thought they buried us in darkness. But humanity is not extinguished by exile. We are sharpened by it. And now the galaxy must face what it feared most, not our power, but our refusal to yield. Jonas Kale exhaled slowly, the fire in him tempered by awe. They tried to lock us away forever. But forever was not long enough. The words lingered, heavy with promise. Outside the viewport, stars stretched endlessly ahead, unclaimed and unprepared. Humanity's chains lay shattered, and with each new step they carved into the void, the inevitability Thalen had warned of drew closer. In the council chamber, silence reigned, heavy and absolute. Thalen's final words carried across the hall, as though spoken not just to the council, but to history itself. We are not facing soldiers. We are facing the inevitable. Humanity will not be contained. And for the first time in millennia, the galaxy trembled. The galaxy braced for its reckoning. Along the rim of council space, whispers of defeat spread like contagion. Entire fleets lay broken, their wreckage drifting as silent monuments to human defiance. Yet the council did not relent. In secret chambers beneath Orion Prime, High Chancellor Dravoke convened the desperate and the ruthless. At the table's heart, a single proposal pulsed in holographic light. Project Oblivion, a weapon designed to collapse stars and erase entire systems. General Ryvac, his carapace scarred and hardened from humiliation, struck the display with a claw. This is our only chance. Strike their colonies, burn their fleets, and scatter their people before their roots dig deeper. If we hesitate, humanity will devour everything we have built. Dravoke's eyes were heavy with despair, but he nodded. If we cannot stop their rise, then we must scorch the heavens to bury them once more. Archivist Thalen sat apart, his voice low yet sharp as a blade. You speak as though fire will erase them. But fire is their cradle. Every attempt to destroy them has only given them shape. Project Oblivion will not protect us. It will herald our ruin. But his warning fell into silence. The decision was made. Far from Orion, aboard the Horizon's Edge, Captain Marcus Hale studied intelligence stolen from fractured council networks. The data was chilling. They mean to burn stars to ash, he said, his voice a growl of fury. They would scorch entire systems rather than face us openly. Admiral Vorin appeared on the command screen, his face carved with grim resolve. Then we deny them their weapon. Their installation lies hidden within the Veil Nebula. We strike before it completes. This will be the decisive moment. Dr. Eric Valen leaned forward, eyes glinting with both dread and conviction. Understand what this means. They will unleash annihilation to stop us. But if we prevail here, the galaxy will know that even extinction cannot master humanity. Jonas Kale clenched his fists, his voice steady despite the fire beneath it. Then let's prove them right to fear us. The fleet surged into the nebula, its swirling gas clouds veiling their approach. Alien defenses shimmered faintly through the mist, fortresses bristling with weapons, fleets drawn tight around the superweapon at the core. Project Oblivion pulsed like a black heart, tendrils of unstable energy coiling outward. Hale stood at the command rail, every nerve honed to the coming storm. Strike teams, prepare for insertion. The weapon dies today. Battle erupted in a maelstrom of fire and steel. Human ships darted through the nebula, weaving between plasma bursts and minefields. Alien fleets fought with desperation, their formations tighter, their volleys heavier than before. Yet humanity thrived in chaos. Commanders adapted with every exchange, turning setbacks into opportunities, luring enemies into traps hidden by the nebula's shifting light. Hale's strike craft pierced through, carrying him and his men directly into the station's hull. Metal screamed as their breaching charges opened a path into alien corridors. Resistance surged to meet them. Ranks of armored soldiers led by none other than General Ryback himself, towering in warplate, eyes blazing with fury. Their clash was brutal, every strike reverberating through the station's trembling core. Ryback's strength was monstrous, each blow of his claws capable of shattering steel. But Hale moved with relentless precision, every motion born of years of survival, every wound endured without falter. "You should have stayed buried," Ryvac roared, slamming Hale against a bulkhead. Hale spat blood, his voice a defiant rasp. "We don't bury. We rise." With a surge of will, he drove his blade deep into the alien's chest, twisting until the general's roar broke into silence. Ryvac collapsed, a relic of a failing order, while Hale pressed forward without pause. As his men advanced deeper, Dr. Valen's voice echoed through comms, guiding them to the control nexus. "The weapon draws power from unstable singularities. Sever its conduits, and it collapses in on itself." They fought through fire and steel until the nexus lay before them, a cavern of pulsing light. Hale ordered the charges placed. With every second, the station quaked, energy screaming like a dying star. Outside, the Council fleets faltered as their great weapon turned against them. The installation imploded, a brilliant shockwave consuming defenders and scattering survivors into retreat. Project Oblivion was no more. On Orion Prime, silence fell as the Council received the report. Dravoke slumped in his chair, his claws limp. "We tried to bury them," he whispered, despair hollowing his voice. "And yet they rise." In the aftermath, human fleets gathered at the borders of Council space. But Admiral Vorn's message to the galaxy was not conquest, it was declaration. His image, proud and unyielding, filled every channel. "We are not your prisoners. We are not your myths. We are humanity. We endured exile. We endured silence. And now we claim our place among the stars." Some species begged for peace. Others retreated into shadows. The Council fractured, its authority broken. Yet no tribute was demanded, no slaves taken. Humanity sought not dominion, but recognition. Their freedom was the only victory they desired. Aboard the horizon's edge, Marcus Hale stood once more before the stars. Around him, his crew spoke in hushed tones of triumph, of futures unwritten. Jonas Cale gazed at the endless void with a young man's fire. "Where do we go now, Captain?" Hale's answer was steady, almost reverent. "Everywhere." Dr. Valen recorded the final entry for the archives, his words meant for generations yet unborn. The galaxy thought itself eternal. But today it has met its reflection. Humanity has returned, and nothing will remain unchanged. The fleet moved forward, banners of light spreading across the dark, heralds of a race that could not be erased. The quarantine was broken. The silence shattered. And the galaxy, trembling still, could only watch as humanity carved its place once more among the stars.